Yes, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Bonus Point. Before we get into the episode today, I have a few talking points. First of all, most important, we are in fact in the international break. I'm sure most of you already knew that, but just in case you didn't, quick reminder, we are in the middle of the international break, or more so it kind of just started. What does that mean for our teams? Basically, two things. One, this is about the best time that I could have to use a wildcard in terms of price rises. Usually it's good to use your wildcard in the international break because you get 2 whole weeks to soak in price rises until the next game week, so it's usually a good time to bust that chip. And then the next thing is that you just can't help it that there are always some sort of injuries or COVID crises across international breaks for players that are traveling here, there, and everywhere. Some of them get exposed, some of them may not get COVID, but just because of regulations in England, they have to quarantine when they come back, depending on the certain countries that they visited and whatnot. And then also, I mean, they're still playing football, a lot of football actually, over these 2 weeks. So some of them tend to get like small minor injuries and whatnot and not able to play that first game back for that particular team. So just something to stay aware of. If you're not on a wildcard, maybe you won't want to use your transfer too early. You might want to save your transfer later on if it have any fires that jump up in your team. But if you're on a wildcard, just no worries. Now is a good time to use it. And this whole week is basically going to be revolving around the wildcard. So today's episode and then Tuesday's episode are going to be a follow-up to today. We're just going to be setting a good foundation for a proper wildcard, and I hope all you can take advantage of these 2 weeks to really solidify your team and have a good wildcard if you're using one. Alright, so without further ado, let's just get straight into the episode. So what we're going to be talking about today is not showing off an actual wildcard, but we're going to be talking about specific teams that I think you all could target over the next 6 to 8 game weeks, So good teams to target right now that should be performing well over the next 6 to 8 game weeks. Starting off with Arsenal. Can't believe I'm actually talking about Arsenal right now in a positive way, especially the way that the season started off for them. It really didn't look too good, but they have definitely managed to pick up some form, as predicted, I should say. Definitely managed to pick up some form and looking pretty good these days. The parts of Arsenal that I would target is more of the defense than the attack. I still consider them a more defensive team than a proper attacking team. That does not mean that we won't be going for any attackers though. Some of the attackers that I like are definitely Saka and Smith Rowe. In terms of FPL, I've been saying about how I favor Smith Rowe in terms of FPL. That doesn't make him a better player than Saka, but I just feel like a lot more chances tend to fall to Smith Rowe. He's also involved in that final pass a little bit more than Saka. Saka does a lot of good work to bring the ball up the field. He does good work in making good decisions, getting the ball into the box, whatnot. But it just so happens that usually Saka is not that final pass, or is not on the end of the goal either. That usually Smith Rowe is a little bit more involved. And coupled with the fact that Smith Rowe is a whole million cheaper than Saka, I think that just makes him a fantastic FPL asset. Either way, I think both of these guys should be pretty good. Saka could take the argument that he's a bit more nailed on than Smith Rowe in this Arsenal team, that Smith Rowe could get rotated if that time ever came. I personally don't see it, but yeah, that's basically the only argument in Saka's favour there. Aside from that, looking at the defense, I would be looking at Ramsdale, Ben White, Tomiyasu. The reason I'm looking at Ramsdale is just because, I mean, he looks pretty nailed on and he makes a decent amount of saves. I felt like in the last game that they played against Brighton, the app had it down as 2 saves made, but it looked like a lot more to me. I'm not sure how the app does count in these saves, to be honest. But yeah, Ramsdale should be a pretty good one for the rest of the season. His competition basically comes in at is between Ramsdale, Raya, or Robert Sanchez. I personally prefer Ramsdale out of the 3. I think that he plays in the best defense out of the 3, and they have some of the best games coming up rather than those other two teams, right? So yeah, once again, to recap from Arsenal, we're looking at Ramsdale, Ben White, Tomiyasu. Again, Ben White and Tomiyasu, they just end there because cheap defenders. I personally favored Tomiyasu over Ben White because he's playing right back, so that should mean that he should be attacking a little bit more. Although I'll be honest, I'm not really seeing it in these games, and maybe I may have made a mistake. Maybe Ben White might actually be getting more points when it comes down to making some bonus points here and there. Don't see Tomiyasu making any bonus points. So yeah. And then Saka and Smith, so we talked about them. Guys like Aubameyang, I probably will not be looking at over. I just think he's too expensive for his output right now. He would need to be scoring a lot more goals to justify that price tag. Moving on into Brentford now. Brentford has some decent games coming up. Sprinkled in there is 1 or 2 tough fixtures, but overall over the next 6 to 8 weeks, they look like they have about 6 good games to target. And the players that I consider to target here is basically Raya, okay? Because I think that... Sorry about that, I don't know. Siri just came up for no reason, whatever. Yeah, Raya, I think that he's going to be a pretty good one to look at. I think that the Brentford defense is competent, so that's important. And they're pretty compact as well. It's not easy to get into that Brentford defense. They have a lot of eyes from that old team. Chris Wilder and the guys now, Lundstrom and those guys. Sheffield, right? I always forget the name of that team. Yeah, they remind me a lot of Sheffield when Sheffield first came into the Premier League, and I really think that this is a defense that we could target. Another end of the pitch though is Ivan Toney, and I really think that Toney could be a good one going forward as well for a few reasons. One, he's on the penalties. 2, he's been the talisman from the last season. He may have switched up his role a little bit recently. He doesn't seem so much of a goal scorer, but more seems to be getting involved in the build-up, and that's the only negative thing that I could say about Ivan Toney, because we would really like him to be on the end of our chances. But his overall quality as a footballer has really increased. I'm very happy with how Ivan Toney started the season. And yeah, the fact that he's on penalties, the fact that he's a striker, he seems to have a good partnership with Mbuemo. Not sure how to really pronounce that name. But yeah, I think all those signs make him a pretty good option. So just to recap, on Brentford, we're going for Raya and Ivan Toney are the 2 guys that I think are good options from this team. Swiftly moving on now, we have Chelsea, and I should basically just say the whole team here, because first of all, Chelsea has a ridiculous run of games coming up. It is probably about as easy as it could possibly be in the Premier League. We're talking about home against Norwich, home against Newcastle, back to back. Like, you have to target these Chelsea fixtures. Honestly, if you're going into a wildcard, I would suggest have 3 Chelsea players. Whether you want to split it between 1 defender and 2 attackers, or 2 defender and 1 attacker, that's up to you. But I can give you some names here that I think are pretty good to target. So Azpilicueta, first of all, we saw him got that 2 assists in the last game, and all of a sudden he on fire pressure now because people see that he can assist, and well, people want him in their team. I think Azpilicueta is a pretty good option. I think the main thing that we're going to be looking for here in this Chelsea defense is consistency. I'm not too fazed about getting Alonso, because when he starts, it could be a haul. No, I think I'd much rather go for the player that's going to start every single week. I think we could get something close to that in Azpilicueta. I think we could get something close to that in Rudiger as well. So Aspi and Rudiger are my 2 centre-backs. Those are my 2 favourite options in the Chelsea defence right now, simply because they seem to be as nailed as can possibly be. And then there's Reece James, who's supposed to be fit, recovered from that ankle injury after the international break. At least that's what people predict, that he will come out strong after the international break, after getting 3 weeks now of rest. And as long as Reece James is fit, I think that this is a great option as well. I think Reece James should be the fullback that plays the most minutes this season, because aside from him, there's no natural right wing back. Aspi could play there, but he doesn't really seem to have the pace to do that anymore. And Alonso and Chilwell are going to be fighting each other all season for that spot, as long as 2 of them stay fit. So I think Reece James should be pretty good coming from that right hand side. And when he plays, we see the quality. I think every time he plays, people feel to transfer him in because he just looks that good, and he's very good at getting returns as well. So Reece James is definitely somebody that I'll keep my eye on. And then moving into the attack now, we have Mason Mount and the man himself, Big Romelu Lukaku. I think Lukaku is a must-have if you're going into a wild card, simply because over the next 6 weeks, you probably want to captain him 3 or 4 times. regardless of the fact that he's blanked in his last couple of games, this guy, he is a fantastic striker. I mean, I think he's been pretty unlucky to blank in the last 2 games. Against Manchester United, he had a really good opportunity to score with his head. They made a pretty good save. And in the last game, he hit the post. He scored a goal that was ruled for offside. Listen, these are good signs. This means that he's very much involved in the attack. I take these things as good signs. The fact that he hit the post from inside the 6-yard box, it means he got a good chance inside the 6-yard box. That's pretty good for me. Lukaku is one of the best strikers in the world. I don't want to hear any different. And once he's getting chances, he is going to put them away at some point. He's not going to get unlucky every single weekend. It's also not every single weekend that you play against United and you play against City. So he has really easy games coming up. We're talking about Norwich in the bridge. The man should be on for a hat-trick. Honestly, I think Lukaku has to be in the team. And that's the most I could talk to convince you all. Aside from that, Mason Mount, he was injured, so he didn't really get too much time in the team throughout the start of the season. But I think that he's probably their second most nailed attacker. I personally am not too convinced by Mount as yet. I think he's a really good player, just not sure about him in terms of FPL. I'm not sure if he's worth 7.5 million. So I might hold off on Mount, but I definitely understand if you wanted to put him into the team. Moving straight into Leeds now. Leeds is another team with an excellent run of fixtures, and there's just 2 people to really talk about here because we know that the defense is tragic, so we're not going to talk about any defender. We're not going to talk about no CDM, no midfielder. We're going straight for Rafinha and Bamford. Rafinha and Bamford are the 2 most important players to Leeds this season so far, I would say. I think Rafinha is definitely turning into be their talisman. I think he is the guy that they want to play the ball to. I think he is the guy that they look towards to get that attack mobilized and to get them going up the field. Rafinha himself has a lot of quality. I've talked about him a lot of times on this channel already. And I think Rafinha should be on for a lot of goals over the next 6 to 8 weeks because the games are just that easy. It's even going to help him if he partners with Bamford because that should raise his assist threat as well. Bamford on a whole is not a great striker in my opinion. He's not a great finisher, I should say. He does a lot of good work for the Leeds system. And in terms of Leeds, he's a pretty good striker. He works really well. But in terms of FPL, it pisses me off to watch this guy miss chance after chance after chance. But the good thing is that he's on the penalties. And the other good thing is that he has a lot of easy games coming up. So I think between Rafinha and Bamford, you can make the case to go for one, you can make the case to go for both. Personally, I think I would just go for one of them, but if the choice is up to you, I think these guys are pretty good over the next 6 to 8 weeks, Rafinha and Bamford. And now, going straight into another L team, it is Liverpool. Now, Liverpool is a unique team in terms of this list. I went for teams that have really good fixtures coming up. Liverpool is exactly not that, because Liverpool has their hardest run of fixtures coming up over the next 5 game weeks. The fact is though, you cannot go without Salah right now. Their next game is against Watford. You need Salah for that game. He has to be the captain. Somebody that we haven't talked about enough on the channel is Sadio Mane. Mane has started the season pretty well as well. It's just that Salah has been so important to Liverpool that he seems to be the talking point when we talk about Liverpool, that we just want to talk about Salah. And then sometimes we talk about Liverpool's defense, we talk about Trent, who is another one that I think you could benefit from having in your wild card. But I'll understand if you didn't want to have him. Some quick talking points about Trent is that he is probably the most creative right back by a mile in the Premier League, but he's also the most expensive right back by a mile in the Premier League. So it's just have to weigh those pros and cons. And maybe you could say you could go without Trent for the next 5 game weeks, but definitely have a way to bring him back in when the games get easy. Because I think once Liverpool has easy games, Trent is going to be taking over. Alright. But back to Salah versus Mane. Sorry, not versus, but back to Salah outshadowing Mane a little bit in terms of FPL. Sometimes we don't want to take 2 premiums from the same team. However, the fact is that Mane has been doing pretty well for himself over the start of the season, and with the likes of Lukaku underperforming a little bit, Ronaldo underperforming a little bit, Ronaldo getting benched, Ronaldo not being on the pens, Lukaku possibly not being on the pens, the case could be made that, okay, let's not go for a premium striker and let's double up on the midfield. And if you were to double up on the midfield, I think look no further than Sadio Mane. So it's just something, just an idea that I want to put into your head there. Let's not forget about Mane. Having Salah and Mane together could be pretty good for FPL right now. In fact, I did a draft. And I don't know if you all know about the FPL draft. You should know about that. And I have Salah and Mane in my draft right now. And I don't know how I was so lucky to get both of them. And I guess the other people I playing with were just sleeping. But got both of them in the draft. They just took my team and sprint now away because, yeah, two of them been scoring almost every week. So yeah, Mane definitely somebody to look at. I don't think it will be a serious problem to have Salah and Mane in your team at the same time. I think it should be fine. Maybe over the next 5 game weeks, they don't want to double up on Liverpool, and I definitely understand that. Go for Salah. He is the man right now. He is on pens. He is the most informed player in the whole league. You have to go for him. Please go for him. And then after the games get a little bit easier, maybe you could go in for Mane as well to double down. Right? Alright, cool. Moving on into Manchester City now. City finally have a nice run of games. They started the season really well. They look so strong. And they definitely are the best defense in this league. At least statistics have shown that. And because of that, we can't be talking about Diaz and Cancelo. So Diaz and Cancelo, basically the two defenders that I think are nailed. I think Cancelo should be playing, if there are 38 game weeks, he should play at least 35 of them. And Diaz, yeah. Diaz is probably going to play every game this season as long as he stays fit. I would definitely won't go for Ederson, just too expensive. And the other defenders, I think they're either too expensive or just not sure if they're going to play right through. I think if you have to make a priority, if you're going for two Manchester City defenders, then yeah, Diaz and Cancelo. But if you only have to choose one, I would definitely choose Cancelo instead of Diaz. He's just way more attacking than Ruben Diaz. Of course he is. So yeah, because of that, I definitely want to go for Cancelo instead. And then moving into the attack now, because we know that City are probably the most attacking team in this league. They score the most goals every season, and yeah, so it goes for them. So as long as an attacker is nailed, we kind of want them. And the guys that I'm going to look at right now is Jack Grealish. I mean, he started every single game in the Prem so far, okay? And they spent 100 million on him, so he looks to be nailed. The only problem with him is that we're looking at 2 returns over the first 7 games. I think that it should get a little bit better for Grealish. I personally think that when they play him as a winger, he looks way more threatening and way more dangerous than when they play him anywhere else. So far, we've seen him play as a 9, as a winger, and as an 8 this season. I think the 9 and the 8 was kind of dead for him, but as a winger, looked really good, in my opinion. Extremely creative. And then someone else that I could look at is Phil Foden, who got 2 back-to-back starts last 2 games, and managed to score against... Okay, I forgot to... Managed to score against Liverpool, right? Yeah. Which is not easy. When comparing Foden and Grealish, I think Foden is a little bit hungrier than Grealish. I think he's a bit more goal-driven as well. If it was a case where Foden and Grealish were set to start every game for the rest of the season, I personally would go for Phil Foden, just because he seems to be a bit more goal-hungry than Grealish is, and that's what we want for FPL. However, the fact is that at the moment, it looks like Grealish is a little bit more nailed than Foden. They are both the exact same price. So what you're going to have to come down to is either you want to take a little bit of a gamble and go for someone who may not start every single game, that's Phil, but may get you some more goals, or you want to go for the guy who's playing consistently in that City attack and just hope that eventually they get returns just because they're part of the attack, and that is Grealish. I'll give you all my opinion. I think I'm going for Grealish, but it's up to you all. And then finally, the last thing we're going to talk about is Wolves. I think Wolves look decent at both ends right now. They finally seem to be able to score some goals, which is just brilliant. But let's not forget about their defense as well. They're not a bad defensive team. And the guys we're going to talk about is Jose Sa. That's the goalkeeper. Personally, I won't go for him because he's just too expensive. But if you wanted to go for him, I understand. We got Marcel and Semedo. Those are the fullbacks. We're not going to look at the centre-backs because although they're cheap, we could get Marcel for the exact same price as the centre-backs, and he's a fullback. So One quick thing to note about Marcel: yes, he's playing wing back, but some fans seem to think that he's not doing a good job. That Aït-Nouri might be the better guy for that job. Personally, I agree, but right now, over the first 7 game weeks, Marcel has played every single game. So, yeah, I guess we're going to have to look at Marcel. And then Semedo, not sure if he's actually worth 5.0 when the rest of the defense is worth 4.5, because Semedo does not seem to get many attacking returns. His decision making is just poor when it comes to the final third. But it's definitely there, like the chance for him to get attacking returns is there. I'm just not sure if it's going to click at any point. So could go ahead and spend the extra 0.5 and get Semedo. Personally, I wouldn't do it. Then we have Hwang Hee-chan, okay, who I personally have liked this player even before Wolves. I think that he's a very direct player, he's a very goal-driven player, and he's a confident player. And these are some of the assets or attributes that we want in our players when we bring them into our FPL team. He is very goal-driven. The only thing is that he's listed as a forward instead of a midfielder in the game. He plays on the wing, but in the current Wolves system, the wingers seem to be getting in, and Raul Jimenez is almost like a false 9 in this system. So I think that's why Hwang was able to score 2 goals in the last game, straight off of Jimenez as well. It brings back a lot of vibes of Kane and Son, actually, where Kane was just dropping deep to collect the ball, and they tried to release one of the wingers. Usually it was Son. In this case, it's Jimenez trying to release Hwang. That's what he did successfully twice in the last game, and Hwang managed to finish both of his chances. I think Hwang is a very good finisher. For 5.5, definitely somebody that we have to look at. Anybody that's 5.5 and scoring goals is someone that I have to look at. And yeah, I don't think it's too early to jump on Hwang. I think you could go ahead and make that decision. He scored 2 goals in the last game. This is not even his first Premier League goal. So he already scored earlier in the season as well. He's got 2 starts back to back, and he looks a lot better than Podence. So yeah, I would definitely go on for Hwang, expecting him to be nailed for the next 6 to 8 games. And if it's ever a problem, just bench him. He's cheap anyway, or just replace him, because again, he's cheap anyway. And we talk about Tony already. You go for Tony instead of Hwang. So yeah, Hwang definitely someone I would look at. And then Jimenez, for some of the same reasons, is definitely someone I would look at. The partnership between him and Hwang looks pretty good right now. Just understand that with Jimenez, you're paying for something different, because he is 7.5, doesn't seem to have a high XG right now. But what you're paying for in Jimenez is consistency and penalties. Jimenez is on the penalties, so he's definitely going to get those goals at least. He's already scored on, please. Wait, did he? Okay, I'm not sure if he scored a penalty for the season. I don't remember. But I know he scored for the season. I know it wasn't a pen. Anyway, whatever. He's on the penalties, so that's a good thing. With tricky players like Podence, like Hwang, Neto when he comes back, Wolves should be winning more pens, and that just points directly to Jimenez. But the good thing about him is that he starts and he plays almost 90 minutes, which is something you can't get out of the other guys in the front three. You don't really get 90 minutes. You don't get the surety of starting. Even with Hwang, you might not get that as yet. So for Jimenez, you're paying for consistency, basically. Right now, his assist threat seems to be a lot higher than his goal threat, but that's okay. I still think Jimenez is someone good to go for. I personally have him in my team already. A few outside shouts would be Zaha from Crystal Palace. Palace has a decent run of fixtures coming up. The next game is pretty difficult, but then after that, they got some green ones. And Zaha is the talisman for that team. He's also on the penalties, and he seems to have a pretty good relationship with Edouard right now. So he seems to be a lot more goal hungry this season as well. So Zaha, someone that I would look out for if you wanted to include him as an outside shout. Sure. Townsend is another one I think he could shout for. They are having like a mixed bag of games coming up, but he's so cheap that I could easily bench him for the hard games and then play him for the easier ones. I think Townsend is in great form right now, and in the same breath, I could also say Damari Gray. So either one of those guys you could go for. There's Adam Armstrong, who has really good games coming up, but I just didn't really want to talk about Southampton like that because they don't really strike me as this brilliant team anymore. I don't think Hassan has gotten it together as yet. Pretty sure at some point he will, and Armstrong will become a pretty good option, so we could look out for him. But based on current information, I just wouldn't put him in my wildcard right now. Son Heung-min, yeah, that guy. Let's not forget about that guy. In game week 12, he's going to have some really good games coming up, like a really good run of fixtures. And if we make any wildcard now, we can't just play short-sighted. We need to look a little bit further as well. Game week 12, Son is looking pretty good. I won't say to go and bring Son in now, but structure your team in a way that is a little modular in a way, so that when it comes time to switch your premium assets for others, you could do that. So you should have a way, I would say, to bring in Son. I have my way. I hope you have yours. And we'll talk about that on Thursday when we talk about the wildcard draft. But yeah, Son is somebody that I'll definitely look at to bring in. Probably not yet, but just have a way to bring him in. And then finally, we got to talk about Mikel Antonio. The fixtures are not looking too good, but he is just in great form throughout the start of this season. Was the top scorer at 1 point. Salah came and took him over, but Antonio has started the season really well, and West Ham on a whole looks pretty good in the attack. So yeah, Antonio, the games aren't looking too good, but maybe you just need to keep him because everybody else has him and because he's doing pretty good for himself. Aside from that, this does wrap up the video. So can't see you all again on Tuesday where we actually reveal our wildcard. We'll reveal a few templates actually, and you all can decide whichever one you like. In the meantime, look out on Instagram. We're going to be putting up some questions, some polls. You all can maybe send in some questions about FPL or shit, anything, and I'll answer it in the next video. Okay. Until then, thanks for coming out and enjoy the international break. Goodbye.